We are in chapter 8, verses 1 through 3 of the book of Acts. Now, it's just 3 verses, but very powerful verses they are. Persecution had come to the church. Stephen had been killed, and the goal was not just to restrict the church, the goal was to destroy the church. And Saul of Tarsus was right there in the middle of every bit of this. He approved of the killing of Stephen, and he wasn't going to start there. He wanted to persecute all Christians. And this persecution forced Christians out of Jerusalem into Judea and Samaria and other places in the world. It was just too dangerous to stay in Jerusalem and face this persecution, this wrath of Saul, which fulfills what the Bible said. Remember back in chapter 1, verse 8, Jesus said, you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth. And persecution helped spread the gospel. God would bring about great results through their suffering. But the apostles stayed in Jerusalem. I don't know how they stayed safe, but they stayed safe. Some people say that members of the church probably took them in at that point. Their courage, though, was inspiring. Can you imagine if they would have just fled? Then people would have thought they were cowards and the church would have really suffered. But they stayed there, and that inspired and strengthened the church. And then verse 3 says, Saul began to destroy the church. Now, he wasn't just arresting people out on the street who happened to have a South Rock Christian Church shirt on or a cross necklace. The Bible says that he went into the homes and he dragged them out and arrested these people. So that tells me that many Christians had become very comfortable with the fellowship that they experienced in Jerusalem. They loved being around other Christians there, and they just did not want to leave. They couldn't imagine anything else. And I think that can happen to us very easily, where the fellowship that we have in church, we just love that so much that we just always want to be in the church building. We're just that comfortable. But they were given a task to spread the good news around the world, but they had become comfortable. But God used that persecution to send them to Judea and Samaria. God can use even the anger of his enemies to accomplish his purpose. And that's so cool to see. Now, we're not being persecuted today, but this crisis that we find ourselves in has taken us out of the church building and scattered us into neighborhoods all over the place. So here's something to think about. Are you waiting till we can meet again at 900 South Rock Road, or are you spreading the news about Jesus Christ where you are? You know, I like to think about how frustrated Saul would have been if he'd only known how his persecution was accomplishing things for the church. It's kind of like a person who tries to put out a campfire by just beating on the campfire with a stick, and their efforts really only succeed in scattering sparks far and wide. And so each spark started a new fire. What I want to encourage you to do today is just think about this. Go be a spark where you are today. Have a great week.